Welcome to ShowMeCon 2016, Revenge of the Dormant Cyber Pathogen. All right, my name is Dave Chronister. I am the managing partner of Parameter Security. If you need any help, look for the orange. If you see a small redhead running around, that is our boss. Just please stay out of her way. If she's not happy, none of us are happy. All right, a few things. First, is this your first ShowMeCon? Wow, look at that. Second? All right, I'm going to get a little here. Third. Awesome. Awesome. Well, thanks for being here. For those of you that have never been to who's first hacking or InfoSec con is this? Awesome. Everybody take note of those guys? All right. Number one, this is a ethical InfoSec. We will have a capture the flag going on. Please, let's respect each other. Let's not try to hack each other. Because I can tell you there's certain people around here that will take offense to it, and you don't want them to be offended by it. Number two, if you notice, you do not have your name on here. We do not give your name out to anybody. This is because we're in security. However, if you notice, we have tons of sponsors. We have sponsors that know they are not going to get your name. They are not getting your email. They are not getting anything from it. They subsidized a lot of this to be here. Please go talk to them. We said no to a lot of sponsors who do not follow what we feel are good ethical principles. These are great companies. Please go out there and please talk to them. All right, we will have a CTF starting at later on today, right at lunch. It will be available over in the prosperity room. We will also have wireless access points where you can use this throughout the day. Our prize this year is a black badge. A black badge will give you lifetime access. I will bow down, kiss your feet each time. Where's our black badges? All right. And I've kissed all of your feet today, so we're good. All right. We did start a little bit late today. We will be fine. We have free time after lunch, so we will go a little bit late, but it's okay. Everybody has their lunch tickets. We have sold out, so we have every possible restaurant minus the buffet filled. So please go to your designated locations for lunch. My boss gave me a list and I forgot it. So there's other things I need to announce. I will announce later. We do have raffle prizes. For the raffle prizes, you need to go to the sponsors. We randomly pick out sponsors to go to. We have some cool stuff. We have some of the most awesome sponsors that are not here this year, but are going to be great. All right, before we get started, last year we gave away a black badge. We had a little contest, see who would eat the most horse and Monster Energy drinks, and our winner was over there. And he said, in all honesty, I've eaten horse and I love it. And I had too. So, this year I wanted to do something a little different. My idea at first was we were going to have people in the voice of Star Wars recreate a Seinfeld episode. And I realized that the more I started thinking about it, the more it turned into a sick fanfic. So we decided to stay away from it. Adrian, can you come up here? Bubba? Paul? Can you guys come up here? This year, I wanted to go ahead, and I had the executive decision of who I was going to give the black badges to. So, come on up here, man. I got him while he's eating. That's the way it is. So, You are at Show Me Con and not Exploit Con thanks to these two guys. Dude from Indiana and a dude from Alabama actually said, hey, listen, you're the Show Me State. Let's make this Show Me Con. Who here has been to irongeek.com? Awesome. This is Adrian. I have adored Adrian since before I was in this field. He has always been my rock star. Iron Geek is one of my favorite websites. I had the honor 4 years ago to finally meet him, and he became, not only did he exceed expectations of how good he is, but he became truly a good friend. Adrian will be here forever. Adrian is the heart and the soul of InfoSec. And we have to have him here because he's the heart and the soul of this con. So Adrian, as a token of our appreciation, we want to give you a black badge, 007, because you are our James Bond. We love you. We thank you. Bubba, I don't know what I can say about you that we can say in mixed company. Who? Bubba Paul Coggin, I have known way too long. Has anybody ever sat in one of Paul Coggin's talks or in his class? Who here actually understood everything he said? I'm still not convinced if he's that smart or the accent's just that much. Paul has been a hero to me since the day I have met him. Like Adrian, I just adore this guy. He has come here every year. He has invited me down to his con. This guy, when I look at what I can give back to the InfoSec community, I'm emulating this guy. He came up here. He did a class for us. I only get to see him a couple times a year. These guys are my friends. This guy also was the one that named Show Me Con, and Bubba, he goes by Bubba, InfoSec Bubba, for all your work and just for being there for us and for InfoSec, we want to give you a black badge. Thank you. All right, another hand for these two. All right, let's get started. What can we say about this gentleman? I met Ben, 4 or 5 years ago, and I said, young man, are you lost? You shouldn't be in this bar. And he said, Dave, I'm the same age as you. So Ben 10, for those of you that don't know, recently moved from the blue side to the red side. Ben is with Trusted Sec, extremely smart guy, a wonderful speaker, just extremely humble. I can't say enough about these guys. I tear up when I get to talk about my friends. Expect it all day. So I'm sorry. Ben, come up here real quick. We actually have, before you get started, we actually have a speaker gift, or not a speaker gift, but a sponsor gift from Hacker Stickers. And when we got it, we said, this is interesting. And then we realized they have it directly for you. So, and this is not a joke. From Hacker Stickers, we have elite underwear, size small, for Ben. Guys, give it up for Ben 10.
Thanks, man. Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Make me proud, son.
You think I won't? Let's see if we can do this. Oh yeah, now the pictures come on. Oh, I'm gonna fall. Now y'all can say you saw me in my undies. Started off right. All right. That wasn't awkward. There'll be private viewing later. All right. Good morning. Okay, come on. Good morning. Awesome. I'm so glad that you guys are here. This is my third year coming to ShowMeCon. I really appreciated Dave and Renee inviting me to come back out again. And I love coming to these cons. I love learning from a lot of different people. And so it's an honor for me to be one of the first people that you guys get to see this morning. This talk is red is the new blue. And like Dave said, I was blue team for a long time, and still am, but I've switched over to the red side. So first of all, ShowMeCon, I love this con. Make sure you guys get the most out of it. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a talk. It could be the networking, talking to different people. It's not so much what you know, it's who you know. There's no way that you can possibly learn everything that you're going to do in this industry, but you know people that do. And when I was first trying to break into this industry, I didn't know anyone. And then I met Jason Street. And I actually got to pick him up from the airport. And on the way from the airport to an event, we got along, we had a great talk. Jason is super funny. Had a lot of great laughs, but he was like, so what are you talking on? I'm like, I'm not presenting. He's like, well, why not? I'm like, I really don't have anything to say. I don't know what to say. I mean, I'm not you. I'm not Dave Kennedy. I'm not insert this person's name. He's like, well, tell me what you do. And I told him, he's like, well, why don't you speak on that? I want to hear about that. He's like, you will speak next year. And I've been speaking for the last 5 years because of Jason Street. Jason Street's right back there. So if you like this talk, it's because of him. If you don't like this talk, it's because of him. So I am Ben10, Ben0XA on the Twitters. I'm a senior security consultant with a company called TrustedSec. That's founded by Dave Kennedy. In fact, Dave will be around. Adrian and I are coworkers, so awesome job, Adrian, on the black badge. Even though I look really young, I've been doing this a long time. Okay? It was actually funny. I did get our little boy, Are You Lost? I was doing a physical engagement, and they had super tight security, and I went in through this garage or whatever and got up, and whenever I break into a building, if you guys have coffee stations, I get free coffee. I've already broke into your place, I'm getting your free coffee. So I'm in there talking with people, going around. This guy comes up, he's like, oh, are you the new intern? I'm like, yeah, I totally am. I am the new intern. I just got out of, I'm going to such and such college, whatever. It's my freshman year. He's like, don't worry, son. You'll learn a lot. And I'm like, okay, thanks. Come to find out it was a CIO, and he was in the meeting after I told him, yeah, I broke into your company. But I've been writing programs for 20 years. One of the first things I did was wrote a video game. The teacher, he wanted us to write a cool video game, but he wanted us to surprise him. And so my friend and I thought, okay, let's do this. So we made this 2D side scroller. This is, back in the 90s. So it was 2D side scrollers, and you had a little guy, and little monsters would come out, and you push the space bar, and you had a little bullet and destroy one of the bad guys. And we're like, okay, let's make this interesting now. So every time that you destroyed one of the monsters, it would randomly delete one of your files. So the longer you played, the more messed up the thing got. So the professor played a really long time, and then the screen just went, it just died. So it was awesome. We still got an A. He was a little upset, but it's all good. So I did infrastructure for 13 years. I was actually a vice president for a long time. This was in the defensive side, and then, early, I was probably one of the youngest VPs. Management and VP, it was fun, but it's not for everyone, and it kind of drains you. And so I decided, hey, you know what, let's make a change. And so I took a pay cut, took a, role. I didn't have any power anymore. I was low man on the totem pole, but now I'm on the offensive side. And so what I'm learning on the offensive side has actually made me better at learning defense. And that's what I want to talk to you guys today about. But I do a lot of PowerShell stuff too. So I am writing a Gray Hat PowerShell with no starch. So hopefully that'll be done soon so that you guys can see all that. We talk about how to use PowerShell for good and evil. But yes, I was in Chicago. So this is summer. So I was there in Chicago for a long time. But now I'm actually located in Dallas. This is winter. So, I much prefer the warmer states, but that's okay. And then I did just get back from Budapest, and so this is Martin Me. If there are any international incidents, you guys will find about it on the news. We deleted most of the data, so hopefully there's no issues. But I did break into security, right? Because that's totally legit. So the way I got involved with this, though, is that we actually got physically robbed. It wasn't like some elite hacker broke in. It was just some punk who wanted some computers. And so because of that, I'm like, hey, yeah, our security was good. We had TrueCrypt on the system. So there wasn't a big deal, but I was like, I need to know more about this. If I want to be a better defender, I have to understand what the offenders are doing. So I'm like, hey, let's start burning things down and let's see what happens. Okay? So I'm like, hey, I got to learn some of this stuff. So, I was like, hey, let's figure out if there's a conference for some of this security stuff. And so this was, back in 2011, and so DerbyCon came out. And I knew nothing of DerbyCon. I thought it had been around for a long time. I had no idea that it was the very first year of it. Went up to Dave Kennedy. I'm like, hey, do you know anything about, who's running this? He's like, yeah, I'm Dave Kennedy. And I'm, who? And he's like, yeah, I wrote SET. I'm like, what's that? It's like, Metasploit. I knew nothing. And so then I began to just learn and learn and learn. And then the following year, this was my talk. And so when Jason and I were in the car, this is what he wanted me to talk about. So I want to show you, hopefully this works. I want to show you what this is. Hopefully it's still up here. We don't have audio? Do we have audio? Yes, no? Is there an audio thing? Oh.
I'm going to be talking to you about a new security procedure that I want you to do. Now, the thing about it is you have to do it right now, or I'm kicking you out of my talk. If you didn't know me, though, what would probably be your first response? You have to do this right now in front of all these people, right now, or I'm kicking you out of my talk. This is my first talk. I'm nobody in the InfoSec industry. What would probably be your response?
Be like, let's do it, I'm a boss.
Okay.
Oh! Go ahead, take a picture. It's all good. I don't care. Let's try it. Let's see if it'll load up again. Oh, you know what? I lost my internet. Hold on. Let's see if this works again now. Did it work? Did it work? Sweet.
Okay.
Oh, hold on. Wait.
No, Lopi, but let's just, for this instance, let's just pretend that you and I don't know each other. Okay? Hi, nice to meet you. I'm going to be talking to you about a new security procedure that I want you to do. Now, the thing about it is you have to do it right now, or I'm kicking you out of my talk. If you didn't know me, though, what would probably be your first response? You have to do this right now in front of all these people, right now, or I'm kicking you out of my talk. This is my first talk. I'm nobody in the InfoSec industry. What would probably be your response?
So here's the thing. The dude doesn't say what I want him to say. So I'm like, whatever. But he's like, no, I'll do it. I'm like, damn it.
Like, let's do it, I'm a boss.
Okay. Most people would probably just say, see you later. Who are you? You're Ben 10. Who cares?
And it also sucked that he was wearing the same exact shirt. So it looked like it was totally staged. So I'm like, son of a, so it was awesome he was wearing my shirt and all, but, it kind of took away from it from the first time. So I'm like shaking, okay, because this is my first talk, but it gets a little bit better.
Now, let's try this. And let's see if this works a little bit better. Okay, so I want to do an example for my talk here. And to do that, I want you to do something with me. Now, this is a new security thing, and I want it to be done, and I know it's going to be a little bit different for you, but however, if you do it with me, hold on. I'll give you $50.
Deal.
Okay, so there's $50.
I did this talk 3 times. My wife told me I can never do it again because we went broke. She was like, another $100?
All right, so here we go. This is the new security model everyone's going to be working on.
Oppan Gangnam Style. Gangnam Style. Oppan Gangnam Style. Gangnam Style. Oppan Gangnam Style. Hey, sexy lady. Oppan Gangnam Style.
All right, give Chris a big hand here.
So yeah, so that was super fun, right? It was the first time I had done anything like that, and so it was a big hit, and I actually got people upset. They're like, you need to warn us next time so we can get our phones out so we can record that stuff. So it was super awesome, super fun. I got so many Gangnam Style references over the last year. So then I decided I was going to expand a little bit. And the next year I was going to talk about, doing different things from the defensive methodologies. And so I created another talk about how you can do like vulnerability assessments. And so I created a new talk. My wife did not appreciate the title. But the whole idea was that you could go out there and do certain things. And as I talked about all this stuff, I began to learn more and more. I made a lot of mistakes, an incredible amount of mistakes. So then I'm like, hey, I'm going to be this awesome elite hacker. So I began trying to learn how to use Metasploit, whatever the case may be. I did own a box. It was my own, accidentally, because I didn't realize I had the right, PC. So I'm like, yeah, let's start learning how to do all this stuff. And then I was like, hey, let's start learning how I can attack my domain controller. So let me talk to you a little bit about this. If you want to attack your domain controller, doing it in a lab environment, because this was my domain controller during the middle of the day, and that's, I don't know if you know what this is, but when LSASS crashes, yeah, it takes like 20 minutes to get everything back up and running. So we did this in the middle of the day. The CEO was out to some business lunch. I get a call. She's like, hey, I'm getting a bunch of emails saying the system's out. I'm like, no, it's fine. So don't do that. So then I left that company. I'd been there a long time. Did a lot of defensive stuff, but I'm like, I've got to expand. So then, and I didn't go to some super elite hacking stuff. I did vulnerability management for a while. And it wasn't super great and awesome. So I basically went and helped people, doing the vulnerability management side. I took all of the experience that I had over the last 15 years on defense, and I tried to help the companies. And I'm like, hey, there are better ways to do things than this. So then I was like, okay, well, I know vulnerability management. Now I'm going to start doing some physical. So I started doing physical penetration. I can fit into a freaking suitcase. But I don't have to, right? It's actually not that complicated. So I started doing some physical. I started doing some generic pen test. And then last October, Dave Kennedy reached out to me. He's like, hey, we've got a spot and we want you. And I'm like, do you know that I don't know as much as y'all do? And he's like, yeah, but I want you here anyways. And so I now moved over to the red. So now, over the last, so many months, a couple of years that I've been doing offense, I've realized that unfortunately, it's not hard. I don't have to do awesome, crazy attacks. I don't have to fit through the vent ducts, even though I can. Dave's always talking about how it's easier for me to go places because he doesn't have to buy an air ticket because he just puts me as child in arms. But I don't have to do the crazy attacks. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that. So what's wrong? So the first thing is I'm unassuming. So that's the first problem. When I break into a physical location, physically, most people don't take me seriously. They think that I'm an intern, I'm a kid, that and I certainly don't look like I'm a threat. And so I walk right in, bypass all security whatsoever. I've even come up with the pretext, I'm a college student and I need, my paper was just run over and got all wet and would someone, please print this out for me? I don't even have to do that. I walk right in. I think it's because I'm so short that I blend in, so my head doesn't come up above people, but I walk right in, go through the data center. No one stops me. So I think I have to come up with this super advanced way of trying to do things, but when in all reality, it's super simple. It doesn't take a lot of work. I certainly hope they don't pop those kegs like that tonight. But then, even not on the physical side, when I go to break in, it's the same passwords. I don't have to crack anything. You guys are still using Summer 16. If that's your freaking password, you change it right now. Because I tell you, I got DA with that. You laugh, but it's true. It's everywhere. Summer 2016, spring. We just keep alternating the season, and we put the year, and it works. We're not doing advanced, complicated stuff here. This is simple. Default passwords. Admin, Tomcat. Stop! Make it a little bit interesting for me. So we just got off this gig, and like the hardware was so old I could not boot from a USB, and I didn't have a CD with me. Because who does that anymore, right? CD. It had a floppy drive. I was like, we're going to go down to the store and find floppy so I can actually put a boot to boot up a different operating system. I went through and I set up a PXE server, put Ubuntu on there, bypass it, had to boot off the LAN so I could get in there and replace the sticky keys with command. So basically you replace the sticky keys, you hit shift 5 times and boom, now your system. Super simple attack. So we did all that, we got a shell, and I'm like, well, let me just go ahead and scan this thing and see what else we have. MS08067. Like, super simple. Like, we didn't even have to go through all of that. Default passwords everywhere. But part of the problem is that we're not training people effectively when we spin up these devices. We're like, here, why don't you take this and go ahead and run with it? So people spin it up and they don't think about it. It's kind of like this. Oh, yes, this ends poorly. I know some of y'all are like, what's going on?
Gloves, leather gloves. All right, I'm going to set some cans up.
Let's go. Okay, so already, this is going wrong, right?
One he's going to set up now. We've got the hammer, like a basic...
Are you freaking kidding me?
hammer action. Now, no...
Okay. Like, part of me doesn't want to finish it, but I will. Because, I saw this the first time, and I'm like, come on. Like, it's got to be empty, right? It can't be loaded. He's just doing this for demo.
Well, you wouldn't do this, but because... I can't hear it. Oh, my God, dude.
Yeah, go watch that later. It's awesome. But we give them these advanced things, and we're like, here, go use it. Without any training. Hey, I need a LAMP server set up. Linux, Apache, MySQL, PHP. We need this. Okay, spin it up real quick. We need a new system. We need this. So everyone's spinning these things up, and they're leaving it default. So we go in there, and it's super simple. I would love to do some advanced stuff, but I don't have to. So make it interesting for me, guys, for crying out loud. I went over there. So, sysadmins are like, let's spin up this, let's spin up this, let's spin up this. We've had environments where everything was super secure. But then we went over to the devs, and we're like, thank you, devs. Because I need admin. I don't want to have to escalate that. I'm a developer, so I can bust your chops. I want to hear it. I'm a developer. The other piece is network segmentation. This is most of your networks. Everything's all flat, and you guys all connect to the Webernet. Like, that's your segmentation. And the dude's like, well, we put them in a switch. It's an unmanaged switch. Doesn't do you anything. They're like, well, we give it a different IP. That's not segmentation. People aren't learning from what happens to other people. You're not learning. Or you see it, and then you're like, hey, I'm not gonna have to do anything about this, because it's not gonna happen to us. In fact, I've actually had companies tell me that their disaster recovery plan is to take a portion of their profits every month to put in a bank account so they can pay the legal fees when it happens. I'm like, well, I guess I can't say anything about that. Sure. So, That's what's wrong. Let me tell you what's from an attacker. When I go and I break into your companies, this is my mentality. Okay? I don't like things to be hard. Any type of resistance, I'm always going to find the path of least resistance. Because I'm lazy. But the other thing is that a lot of y'all are, and by the way, I moved to Dallas, so I'm going to say y'all just fine. I like y'all. I'm sorry. You have to deal with it. But a lot of y'all are only focusing on stopping me, not detecting me. You see, defense is more about detection than it is deflection. It's more about whether or not you can tell that I'm in there. There's always going to be a 0 day. There's always going to be some patch. There's always going to be some article on Krebs where something new that you guys have to focus on. And I create new attack methodologies all the time because that's what I like doing. So if you're only going to stop what you know, how are you going to stop what you don't? You're not. But can you detect when I'm there? Can you identify that something's wrong on your critical assets? You're not going to be able to do it on all 40,000 of them or 50,000 or however big your organization is, but you have critical ones. And I'm going after domain. I'm not going to be content with just local admin. I want domain. So that's where you should be looking for me. So how do you do that? Well, you set up a path of least resistance. It's just like electricity, right? Any of you do any type of electronics or engineering, you guys know that electricity will go with the path of least resistance. So when you set up your networks, if you want to catch me, make it to where I will go where you want me to go. Put the Snicker bars or whatever someplace where I can find it. Make it easy for me so then I go over there. But the other piece is actually knowing what's going on in your network. Most of your environments that I attack are Windows. Now we attack all sorts of things, Linux, mainframes, whatever. But most of it's Windows. And yet, the number one attack methodology right now is PowerShell. It's not a binary. I'm not dropping a binary. In fact, I will only drop a binary if it's my no other choice. Why? Because AV will pick me up. If I'm doing PowerShell, I'm writing memory. AV is not doing that. Lee Holmes wrote this blog. It's called PowerShell Hearts the Blue Team. If you haven't read this, I encourage you to do so, especially if you're on infrastructure side. This is something you guys really need to read. In fact, Lee not only wrote the article, but he reached out to everyone in the PowerShell community, and he's like, we need you to go through this and see if it's legit and if you can bypass it. So, of course, I went home that night, and I found a couple bypasses, and then he fixed those so that way he could post this article. They were very intentional on that. The other thing is that you're chasing all of the small things when you should be focusing on your critical stuff. Your critical stuff sits out there. It's completely unpatched. It's not doing anything. You guys are just leaving them out there. You rely too much on the deflection controls. I got the Star Wars picture in there. We got it? Good. All right. You have to expect that they're going to fail. So let me show you a couple of things. All right. Is that much time I have left? Or is that much time I've got to go? No way. I haven't been speaking for an hour. All right. So let me show you a couple of things. All right. How many of you guys have ever heard of Responder? Oh, I've got some fun things to show you. I'm going to make that font just a little bit smaller. There you go. Can you guys still see that okay? Yeah? You good? Okay, so Responder is a really cool tool. It was written, and basically what it does is it sets up a bunch of different things, and if you have any type of traffic that goes along your port that doesn't have a DNS entry, it'll go to LLMNR, NBNS, HTTP server, and basically if you type something and it doesn't know where to go, it's going to respond. So if I were to actually like if you do net use, it'll go out and say, oh, I'm that person, talk to me. So what Responder will actually do is it'll actually give me a hash. So all I have to do is get on your network and I do this responder. The nice thing about this too is it also gets clear text creds. So I get on your network and I just let this guy run. And y'all give me your passwords because you haven't disabled LLMNR, you haven't disabled NBNS, because you figured, hey, what's that going to matter? So we love this tool. It's, honestly, I've gotten DA with it. Like the DA creds right there, like in summer 16. Yay! So how do you detect this? Let me show you. You set up a path of least resistance. I wrote this neat little thing called Honeycreds. And what Honeycreds does is it injects a set of fake credentials into the network. It doesn't cause any interruption, doesn't do anything. And in fact, the only way that you would know that these credentials exist is if you were using a tool like Responder or doing a packet capture with Wireshark. That's the only way you're going to see this. So what you do is you set up this path of least resistance, and you basically inject these credentials into the wire, and Responder will pick it up. So let me show you what this looks like. So if we do invoke Honeycreds, it'll say, well, enter a credential. So you come up with some fake domain. Now make it look legit. Like use your domain or like a subdomain or whatever. So, show me con. And then give the username. Don't be like, haha, gotcha, pen tester. I'm not going to try that one. But this is one that you have. SCCM admin. Or Qualys scanner or something. And then do some password and make it look super complex. Like, okay. Now what this does is it'll actually inject it into the network. And so Responder, when it sees this, obviously there is no such thing as show me con or anything like that. So Responder's going to say, I'm show me con. Come talk to me. And so then what it'll do is it'll actually do an authentication, and then I'll grab a hash. So you guys will see that all of a sudden this hash will come over as me trying to authenticate as this user. And so I'm like, oh, I want this drive, so please connect to me. And so it's basically going to sit there, go back and forth, boom. And there's my SCCM admin, and there's the hash. Now I could go and break that hash, but it looks pretty complicated, and I don't know. So what I also do, I decide, all right, I'm going to send in clear text. Now, the moment that that person logs in, I got him. Do you see that? Do you guys see that? I set up a path of least resistance. Because if I have a hash or I have the plain text creds, as an attacker, which one am I going to use first? Plain text creds. So I inject this into the wire, and the only way that this person, that someone's going to pick this up is if they're doing this attack specifically. You see, it's all about the detection. I want you to use those creds. This way, I know for a fact that my indicator of compromise is significantly high, and my disaster recovery, my incident response team should go into a place immediately, because there's no reason that that account should ever be used. And so what I do is I purposely set this up. I create an administrator account with an easy password. I want to know when an attacker is there. And by the way, if you're setting up a honeypot, close some freaking ports. If I scan a box and all 65,000 ports are open, I'm not touching it. Let's be smart about this. Make it look like it's legit. Okay? Because I see it, I'm like, oh, this is a honeypot when it responds to everything. Set up paths of least resistance. So this Honeycreds is available out on GitHub. So you guys can go to GitHub, BenOxa, PowerShell defense. It's a real simple thing. What I basically do is I impersonate this new user. So it's really cool. I use the login user API, and then I just impersonate them with a token. So that way you don't have to worry about your creds being displayed out. It just creates an impersonation token. And so that way you can set it up to run as anything you want. If those creds are ever used, you know you have an issue. What do you guys think? Is that cool? You guys like that? Did you like that? Yep. So the question was, how often do you do it? The whole idea is that you set that up and you let it run. You don't stop it. It should be running all the time. All the time. It sleeps for 5 seconds and then sends it again. It just runs. It doesn't cause any interruption of service. All it's doing is trying to connect to a drive. That's it. It's trying to map a drive. It's like netuse // and a UNC path. That's all it's doing. But what you're doing is you're intentionally saying, I want you to connect to this box. And then I send you clear text creds. I'm like, oh, please connect to me because I got you, you son of a... Right? That's the whole idea. So a couple of things to wrap up. If you're doing penetration tests, make sure the testers are telling you what didn't work as much as they are that did. If you're only getting a pen test report and it's all, I broke all your stuff, you're welcome, then you might want to ask, well, what else did you try? Because that way you know what defensive things are working, right? That way you can go back and say, great job, team, on shutting down this down. We have other work to do, but good job on at least detecting. Please, for the love of all things pure, change your default passwords. You should be running the script just to log in to see if it's Tomcat, admin. Please, at least make it interesting. You have to expect that your security controls and your training are going to fail. I am going to go up and I'm going to cry, and your receptionist is going to like me. Because she's going to feel bad that I'm some lost little kid. Okay? It's going to happen. Okay? I'm going to figure out a way to get in. You have to expect it to fail. What can you detect when it does? Stop focusing just on defense talks. Get out to the offensive ones. If you're not learning what the offensive's doing, you have no idea that if what you're doing on the defense is the right thing to do. A lot of good it's going to do if you only focus on duct taping your windows and you don't even realize that you should be working on the locks. Go to the offensive talks. They might be a little complicated, but you need to understand what they're doing. Burn things down. Not literally. I don't believe in arson. But there's this thing called Chaos Monkey. Anyone heard of it? So Netflix did this thing where it's Chaos Monkey, and there's also with Amazon Web Services. But basically what it is they randomly shut things off. Just because. Now, if you want to rage quit, I'd do that at your corporation, because that'll be awesome. You just unplug things and I'm out. Done. But the whole idea is actually create an environment where things don't go exactly as you plan. There you go. You need a little bit of chaos in your environment. Everything shouldn't be happy-dunky-dory. I love the dude in the background. He's like, what the... He's like, oh, that's that dude. I'm sitting back down. That is the perfect Chaos Monkey if you need to hire someone. Okay? Turn things off. Let's see what happens. Can your team respond to it? You see, part of the problem is that when there's an incident or something that happens in your environment, you're not ready for it because you want everything to be happy. So when something bad happens, you can't react to it. Your team, your incident response team, your digital forensics, your team should be used to chaos. That should not be something new. If you're not burning things down, that's a problem. Chaos should be good, because that way when I get on your environment, you already know how to handle me. You just pick me up because I'm super small. So I wrote this tool called the Kraken. And what it does is it goes out and finds every possible computer it can, and it determines whether, so if I have a set of credentials, it'll authenticate to that box with those credentials. It'll enumerate each of the network interface cards, and it will hardware disable them. Awesome way to rage quit. Because if you hardware disable a NIC, you have to physically walk over to every single box and re-enable it. You can't do that remotely. So you'd send that to 40,000 computers? It's awesome. And because it's me, this is more Kraken for me. Isn't he cute? I know, I heard some awes over there. So the whole idea here is look at some other things as well. So there's I also have another tool I want to show you real quick. So a lot of you guys are like, "Ah, I'm gonna stop you, Ben. I got you. We disabled PowerShell because you're the PowerShell guy." I'm like, "Oh, that's awesome, great." Guess what I wrote? I wrote a tool that's called not PowerShell. It runs all PowerShell commands. So if I do this, I can even do, it'll give me the encoded command. Oops. You can't see it? Sorry, hold on. Let's see, I think I want this one and this one. Ah! All right, let's try. Oh, I chose the wrong one. Hold on. There, is that better? A little bit. So if you do PowerShell, encoded command, and you put that guy in there, it does the same thing. So if you're just shutting down PowerShell with AdBlocker just at the binary, yeah, I gotcha. That's not going to do you any good. So here's the other thing too. If you're trying to stop PowerShell as your defensive methodology, you're doing it wrong. Stopping PowerShell is not going to help you. Do you know why stopping PowerShell is not going to help you? If you guys ever decide that you're going to upgrade to 2016 or 10 if it keeps popping up and you have no idea what's going on, but if you're going to upgrade to 2016 and nano servers, the only way you can manage a nano server is with PowerShell. So if that's your idea, you need to stop. You need to go back. It's about detecting PowerShell. Read Lee's blog on how to do that. And I guarantee you, if I find something else, I'm going to write another tool that this will do this. I'm actually writing NPS so that it'll handle XP that doesn't have PowerShell at all. So if you're still on XP, I'm going to have fun with you guys. So go out and grab NPS, grab Honeycreds. It's a fun tool. Look at Jared Atkinson's InvokeIR. It's a fantastic tool designed around doing incident response. And then Matt Johnson and I, we had this thing called PoshSec, which focuses on baselining your critical assets and then showing you any type of deviations. So to wrap up, I know I'm probably a little over, but that's okay. The whole idea that I'm trying to say is stop having your defensive methodologies be so focused on detection. There are fantastic vendors out here who have awesome products. And I'm not saying that they're useless. Everything has a place. But your defensive methodology should be built in such a way that it's layered. You have to expect something to fail. It has to be in there. If you're not expecting something to fail, you're doing it wrong. And in fact, if nothing fails, you need to go in there and unplug some stuff. Just for the fun of it. Because it should fail. Because you need to see if that fails, we'll be able to detect it on the other side. When I get to your environment, it should not be so simple that I have to do MSO8. Or, that I got MSO8 or I've got default creds. You gotta make me work for it. Set up a path of least resistance, and that way I will follow it because I don't want to have to work hard. I'm gonna get on your environment. I'm gonna be like, dude, I got plain text creds. Look at that. That's awesome. Log in. I gotcha. That's the idea. Any questions? All right, guys. Thanks so much. Appreciate it.